So one other element of the movie too, and this is like one of those, it's a character narrative that's in movies where you have the self-sacrificing black man. So there's always like this one black guy in a film that will always sacrifice himself for the main white character to live. And Morpheus was that person. Granted, of course, it was for the greater good. Yet, still, like, there has to be that character narrative in the story. And then at the same time, that person, typically, the sacrifice isn't really important enough to, like, make that person, like, transition into whatever they're supposed to transition to or do whatever it is they're supposed to do. But in this one, it was, right? So for him to say, okay, Morpheus, and he actually told him that when he was ready to go back into the Matrix, he's like, Morpheus believed in something so deeply that he was willing to give his life for it and give his life for me. I know what that now. So that part did confuse me a little bit because I guess in a weird way he says, I'm gonna go back in the Matrix to save Morpheus, not because I believe I'm the one, but I believe so deeply that I can save him.
Yeah.
And it was just like, dude, because you're the one.
Yeah, but people be in denial like that, and it's a choice because the Oracle even told him, on one hand, you have your life. On the other hand, you have Morpheus going to give his life for you and you get to choose. You have his life and but I can see that because there is levels to denial, man. It can be a thing where like they're saying like you're the best or whatever. And you'd be like, well, I can just do my thing. You can still be able, but sometimes people don't want that title. It's like being like all the qualities to be a boss, but you don't want to be a boss. You just don't want to be in charge like that. Now you have the potential. You could do all the stuff. You could run the business, but you don't want to. You don't want that title. So I'm gonna go in there and do this job for you, but I'm still not the one. I'm not gonna be the manager. But I'll do this one safe. I'll take care of the shop for you today. So I thought of it more like that. So he knew he could do that, or he felt like, this is for a good enough reason for me to be here to try. If my boy think I could, watch his shop for him while he's gone for a day, then I'll do it. But, don't think it's going to be a normal thing. But I could step up because you believe in me. So I'm going to do that for you. I kind of took it kind of like that. Yeah.
I mean, I get it. I just like, man, really?
Yeah.
So, the part that I guess we haven't really spoken about, like, again, I hinted at it earlier, just the tenacity and that backbone that Trinity brought. Mm-hmm. I mean, man, where she's, so Neo's, setting himself up to go back in and stuff. And Trinity's like, I'm going with you. And he's like, no, you're not. And it's like, why would you tell her she can't? Because you're concerned for her safety, right? And she's like, well, let me tell you what I believe, and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, man, she's super feisty, like, which, of course, like, typically if a girl is like giving you hash, that's probably the one that you should, end up with. Cause she's so passionate about whatever it is, like, especially pumping your brakes when you think you checking her and y'all checking each other. But anyway, I mean, the backbone that she had, that she brought, with him, that whole, like, no, we're going to do this together. And then they do. I mean, it's just, that whole thing. And then that shootout scene.
Man, I still scream when he'd be like, they're going into the building, like, and go get Morpheus. And he's like, can you check in on your metal? And he walks through the metal detector and the whole thing lights up and he opens up his jacket and he's like holy shit. And then you see the double on both sides. Oh.
And then the guy's like, back up. And you see Trinity walk in. Oh my goodness. It's like, it was just great. It was just great. Like,
look on that guy's face when he's like, do you have any metal? And that alarm went off and he's opened up his jacket and he's just like, what? And he's just like, man. Oh, they did some damage up in there. That was beautiful, beautiful scene.
Yeah, beautifully done. I mean,
ridiculous.
Beautifully done. Now, at the end of that scene, though, at the end of the scene, I mean, super powerful, right? Super powerful. When, they have to shoot the elevator cord, and he looks and he says, there is no spoon.
Right.
Because he is, like, really starting to believe that anything is possible, right? And he's like, don't, remember the kid told him, don't try to bend the spoon because you can't do that.
You don't try to attempt to bend the spoon. That's impossible. Think of it as, it's not the spoon that bends, it's you that bends.
Yeah, right. Because you're starting to bend that this isn't real.
Yeah.
Right?
Basically.
And when he says that and he shoots it and he's flying up, I mean, that was just super, super dope. And then, I mean, the fight scene on the roof, that was like visionary type stuff right there. Man. The cinematics, choreography. I mean, when he turns around, he starts shooting at the agent, and you see this agent doing, the super fast but super slow movements. Like, what? Are you serious?
Yeah. And then he does his thing. The agent starts shooting at him, and he does his bullet time. I have never. Now this thing has been duplicated, copied, did for jokes and all this other kind of stuff. I've never seen bullet time done like that before. Not better than that. Not better than that. And
of course not.
It's crazy, man. And we're years past it. And it's been copied and duplicated so many times. It's never been like just the way it was shot. And once again, it's a situation where he's not doing anything. He's not leaping in the sky. It's simple, grounded action that was shot a certain kind of way that made it surreal.
Yeah.
Like Trinity's kick that she did in the beginning. She didn't jump necessarily especially high, but the fact that she jumped up, it paused and rotated around her gave it a supernatural feel. Same thing with this. He's just falling back, dodging. He falls all the way back. He's not stuck. But the way they shot it, it made it. I just love
they said
that.
They brought that to the cinema world where they put I think it was 100-something cameras around the 360. Filmed it like that. Yeah, they did that cameras. 3 times. I don't know if you had heard that fact about the film. Warner Brothers originally gave them $10 million for the movie, and they spent that $10 million just making the first scene with Trinity. And when Warner Brothers saw that scene, oh no, give them all the money that they want.
I remember the producer Joel Silver talking about that. And it's funny because I had seen that bullet time effect one time before, and I think it was the same people who did it, but it was a Levi's commercial. And he had somebody jumping over somebody's back, and they just paused in the air. So I saw that on something else, but they took it to another level on that Matrix movie. But I first seen that bullet time thing on the Levi's commercial, and I'm thinking how they do that? Because it was almost like an animation kind of thing, but it was real life. So it was funny because I remember them also saying they wasn't for sure if it was going to work. So they had, other ways they were going to shoot it, but they were kind of hoping that it would work out. And boy, it just changed the game, man. It was just, it made sense in that world. It needed that.
It was, that made it the classic that it was, because that helped you. It helps you think of it in terms of a computer generated world, right? It helps you kind of see it like that, that this is kind of not real data type, all that kind of stuff, right? And him bending the rules of physics and gravity and all this other, kind of stuff that we hold dear, right? That we stick to, all this stuff is being bent, and it's just perfectly done digitally to see it, right?
Yeah. Because they could have filmed that like normal, and it'd been like, But the fact they slowed it down so you can see how he's moving up just enough.
How fast it was.
Man.
Because remember, because I know that concept had to have come up in the Flash back in the day, the 90s, or was that the 80s?
That was I think it was the 90s.
Is it the 90s?
It's probably the 90s.
Yeah. And so, but of course he was running regular, but they would speed up the background to make it look like he was running super fast, right?
Right.
And so, but not have, just every generation has these new ideas and concepts on how to push cinematography further. And I mean, just when they came with it, after that $10 million was spent, the money that they got to change it up.
Right.
I mean, man, that roof ceiling, that changed everything.
Yeah.
Everything. And then, again, so them saving Morpheus. So wait a minute. Actually, my second favorite scene in that movie was the conversation between Agent Smith and Morpheus when they're trying to break him.
Powerful.
I mean, man.
Powerful. Yes. That was a moment.
That was a moment, man. He's like, leave me with him.
Yeah.
You know, and he starts telling him, he's like, I want to share this revelation with you, like, about your species. First of all, you have a computer, you know, literally lines of code, a computer, you know, piece telling you about your species.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Yeah,
right.
It's just, what? He's like, I realize that you're not actually mammals. Every mammal, you know, he says mammals that go to a place and they live and they, you know, give birth and all this kind of stuff, and they find an equilibrium with their surrounding environment. Right. But humans don't. You move to a place and you multiply until every natural resource is used up. And when he tells him, you know, there is another organism on this planet that has that pattern. You know what it is? A virus. I was like, what? And then when you start thinking about that, like, huh. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like, you know, and so when he tells him this, like, he's like, I have to get out of here. I have to get free, right? And so then you start seeing that this computer, something is wrong with him. And again, you dig deeper into that piece in the second film, but you start seeing how, I guess, in that world, he would be corrupted because he has self-awareness as to what he is. Right. He knows what his purpose is, and he wants to fulfill it so he can just be gone, as opposed to just fulfilling his purpose.
Right.
Right? I mean, crazy. It's like, I need to get the codes to Zion to destroy it, so then I can just be done.
Yeah, this place stinks. He's sick. He's sick of it. He don't like the smell of it.
I don't like the smell.
It's done.
The smell.
It's the smell.
When he said that, he's like, it's the smell. Yeah. If there is such a thing.
Right.
Right.
You think that smell you're smelling?
Yeah. The funk. It's like, it's repulsive. You know, but I mean, if there is such a thing, though, even he knows it's not real. You know, and so, you know, it's just, that was my actual second favorite scene in the movie, just the dialogue piece. I mean, the first part, my first favorite scene in regard to dialogue was them walking down the street and telling them about, you know, the system, everybody in the system, you know, will fight to protect the system. Second part was that, with Agent Smith trying to break Morpheus. That dialogue was just sick, man. It was just sick, man.
I thought it was cool too, and also dug the Morpheus talking about what the Matrix was and being like the humans being like a battery. I thought that was pretty dope too. That's a great way to sum up. That's a lot to put. It was a good perspective to put that big concept into that short amount of dialogue. I thought that was pretty good. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. When he told him, he's like, I've seen fields, endless fields, where human beings are no longer born, we are grown. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? With that form of fusion and blah, 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 blah. But yeah, no, it was, I mean, that piece. And then, you know, again, you know, at the end where he, you know, it comes a time where he can either run or he can fight Agent Smith. And he decides to fight. I mean, you know, and Morpheus, and he's like, what is he, you know, Tank, he's like, what is he doing? He's like, he's beginning to believe.
Right. But and it's funny too, because before that, when they had saved Morpheus, Trinity came by with the helicopter and they, you know, trying to make their escape, and I guess he had caught Morpheus when he jumped out the window, and then he dropped him on the top of a building safely. And then it was so powerful because, like, he wasn't even thinking he was necessarily the one, but the moves he was making, you could tell his moves were being more and more confident because he stuck to that bungee cord. The helicopter is falling out of the sky. He's connected to the bungee cord, and he doesn't cut himself off the bungee cord. He wraps it around his arm, holds on tight. That helicopter is falling. He's getting dragged across the top of the roof. He plants his feet. The thing pulls him to the edge of the building. And he doesn't know what's happening inside that helicopter. It's still connected. Right. Randy's on her end. I gotta get out of here. She sees the bungee cord. She shoots it loose. She holds on to it. He's already holding on the other end. The helicopter hits into that wall, and she flies out on the other end. Oh man.
Yeah, he really did not know.
He was starting to move. He started to move without him even knowing what he was doing. Like I said, his mind wasn't ready, but he was unconsciously, everything was lining up. Like, we're going to walk you through that front door. Even if you don't want to go, the last thing might be your head, but your body is walking through that door. You're going. So everything was just kind of lining up because he was just making these moves that were just like, if you didn't think you were ready, you wouldn't be moving like this.
And the other part, again, that underlying piece of how important Trinity is to him, right? Because I remember the Oracle saying, I can see why she likes you, though. He's like, who? He's not too bright. Right. Right. But then, like, how important she starts becoming to him when the helicopter's falling. The only thing he says is Trinity, because that's what matters most. He's going to try to, like you said, save this helicopter, not knowing that he can or can't do it, right? But he's just like, I have to save Trinity. Like, you know what I'm saying? And just that start to love. I think that piece where they made it to the train station, they got Morpheus safe, and then it was, time for the next. And even then he says, Trinity, you go first, right? And she starts kind of like, she starts to divulge like what it is, like what the Oracle told her. Right. And who knows if she had told him that then, it would have changed. We don't know, right? Right. But then, the thing about too, again, how much tenacity she has. Mm-hmm. So remember, she goes through. Agent Smith shoots the phone. Yeah. She says, "What happened?" An agent. She says, "You have to send me back." Right. I mean, the love that she has for him and making sure that he's okay. Right. Man, you know what I'm saying? Just that bond that they started having. Because she can't fight an agent, but yet she's like, you have to send me back because I have to make sure he's okay. The one or not, I love him. You know what I'm saying? Right.
Two things. Well, one, it's interesting how he wasn't coming to realization of self on his own. It was the fact that the people around him was getting him there. Like he wouldn't make the moves for himself. He made the moves for people he respected and loved. Mm-hmm. So that goes to show you too, it's important to the people you have around you. Right. That makes a difference on how you move, because you may not be better for yourself, but until you get there to know to be better for yourself, sometimes you be better for others because of your respect, love, and your, the feelings you have for others. So I think that's really dope. And then the other thing too, I thought the cool thing about seeing her go through the phone and the phone getting shot, it explained what was happening at the beginning of the movie. Because when I first saw that movie, I thought it was crazy. I'm like, did she get hit by the truck? So I was shocked when she went to the phone and put her hand to the glass and the truck ran to the phone booth. When I saw the rubble, I was waiting to see, her dead body laid out or something like that. So I didn't know exactly what had happened. I know she didn't jump out of there. And I thought it was weird when he had went to the club and saw her at the club. I'm thinking I thought she was dead. So just all this stuff coming around in the movie, it's just funny how it just kind of unfolded stuff and how it was done in a way where you didn't understand, so you got disengaged. You didn't understand, and you got more engaged because you wanted to see what they was going to give you, and they would give you just enough as you went along. They never dropped you off the ride, Right. Like they kept
spoon fed you a little bit.
Right. They kept feeding you as you went versus just like, I don't get what this is, and I got to get off. Like, I can't take this. It's a fine line, man. There's movies that just drop you off, Right. And for it to be such a big, heavy concept, it was brilliant the way they were able to nurture you as you went along on the journey, Back to that scene with them in the subway station. Oh. When he, like you said, he didn't run.
He didn't run.
He didn't run.
When they had this kind of Western, who's going to draw first moment, and you see the newspaper like it was tumbleweed. Right. And then they both draw like
Right.
And then they run at each other and they do the 360. Oh my God!
Boot sweeping across the screen.
Yeah. Bullet and swinging and just and then they both fall together, barrel to head to head, barrel to head. Yeah. You're empty. Yeah. So are you. Yeah. And he looks and he's like, yeah. And just to see that duality between them. So because it wasn't just this, easy kill for Agent Smith right then, right? Because if he would, he was going to shoot him, he was going to shoot him. But they both were dodging the bullets, and then they both grabbed the hand, and so it's not this easy kill. There's that duality right there where you're empty, so are you.
Yeah. And it's funny because that scene of them like kind of circling around, it's the same swarming motion that the Sentinels do, the same swarming motion as the cops when they went into the bathroom to beat up Morpheus. They kind of swirled around as well. So that whole thing with those machines and stuff moving in that circular motion,
kind of like that hive.
Yes,
type of deal,
how it kind of continues. All that stuff is all that same kind of flow. So I thought that was pretty.
That was pretty cool too. That piece, that piece, and then the fight was just great. I mean, he starts believing. He takes his licks. He gets him. He gets him. Agent Smith throws Neo into the subway, and he's like, he's gonna kill him. He's like, any last words, Mr. Anderson? Again, getting him to try to go back to his regular Joe Blow life.
Right, he's trying to sell him.
My name.
Right,
yeah.
He's trying to sell him just like his boss was saying, Mr. Anderson,
just like everybody else. And he said, "No, my name is Neo."
That's right.
And then did that little backflip out the sun. Man. But then he had to take off. He did, a fresh agent. Yeah, he had to take off. And then just the next piece where it's like
you're trying to get out,
get to the exit.
Now, did you notice that the hotel he ran to was the same hotel Trinity was in the beginning of the movie? That's the same hotel in the same room.
I did not know that. Room
303.
I knew the room. I did not see that. I said it at the beginning of this call.
Hotel
20
Heart.
years later, I would learn something. 20 years later, my favorite movie, I would learn. I did not peep that was the room.
The whole thing is circular. Started off with her there and ended back there at the same hotel, same room, 303.
And it would make sense how he knew it because that was an exit room. Mm-hmm. She was in that room on the phone. That's how they traced the call there.
Right. That's how she's
going to. That's how he knew it was there.
Yeah, that's how but they was giving him directions on how to get there because remember he's running through the different rooms and stuff and he's cutting through different buildings and stuff. Yeah. But yeah, so it was interesting to see like all the people changing. So first it was kind of like a more slick thing when the agents would change when people were changing to agents and stuff, but since he was running through, it was a whole bunch of changes real quick. It'd be like somebody holding groceries and all of a sudden there's an agent, somebody cooking food and they throw their knife and now they're an agent. So
or the person he took the cell phone from.
Yes. He was like pointing like
he's like, hey, that's my phone.
Yeah, then he turned to agent. Yeah, so it was just showing how the system was just trying to protect itself. Like it's like it doesn't care about being slick or hiding.
Yeah, and who you are.
You're just jumping, just using.
You're jumping. Mm-hmm.
Anybody's a potential. So it really showed. It really, that was really a callback to when he was telling you that every potential person could be an agent. Because
everybody we haven't unplugged,
right,
is potentially
an agent. Yeah.
Yeah.
So for him to run into there, and then he, they get him directions there in his ear, tell him to go here, go there. He gets into the room, opens the door, and then you look up, and then kaboosh, kaboosh, and I'm like. Huh?
Just like that.
Like, huh?
Was waiting for him.
Because they knew too, because they were there too.
He still was going to fight before he unloaded in his chest. And then, yeah.
Hey, this is Jay. And I hope you're enjoying the conversation so far. I just want to let you know that this conversation is part of a larger conversation that continues on the next episode. Thanks for listening.